Hello, hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Welcome back to Airdomo Global, your weekly guide to the world's most compelling real estate opportunities. I'm Stephanie Gilezan.
And I'm Charles Bornheimer. And Stephanie, I got a question to kick us off here. Can you name the Caribbean island where, as a foreigner, you can come in, own beachfront outright in your own name, and pay nothing on the way out? What are we talking about?
Charles, I love this place because all this research that I've done, I have been like, I've got to go. It's Barbados. And this episode is long overdue this is amazing, you guys. Barbados has no capital gains tax, no inheritance tax, and no wealth tax. They're like me. They hate tax. I love it. Foreigners get full freehold ownership, exactly the same rights as a Barbadian, right? Citizen with no trust structure and no restricted zone anywhere on the island. It has been a stable parliamentary democracy since 1966. And international buyers already make up close to 3/4 of the high-end transactions. So very few places on earth hand you all of that in one package. I'm in love.
Right. And it's really two islands in one market. We have the Platinum Coast in the west, the South Coast around Christchurch. And we'll take a look at each of them and also the residency and tax structures of each. Again, as usual, everything we talk about is live on Airdomo. Don't forget to check it out and find your dream Barbados property there. But let's get started with, before we talk about the two coasts, Stephanie, let's set the foundation. Why does Barbados hold such a valued place as a trusted address?
Well, Barbados holds its place as the most trusted address in the Caribbean because it is boring in the best possible way. Boring in the best possible way. Most markets in this region ask you to accept a trade-off somewhere, right? You got to give up something, either on political stability, on whether your ownership is really ownership, or on whether you can even get there without two connections, right? And a helicopter ride. But Barbados does not ask you to accept much of anything. It has been a parliamentary democracy since 1966, as I already mentioned, with one of the highest standards of living and the strongest institutions in the region. Grantley Adams has direct flights from London, New York, Toronto, Miami has direct flights, and for British buyers, it is often an easier trip than half of Europe is. So nothing about this island requires a leap of faith. And for us in the United States, it is super easy for us to get there too. And they're adding flights every single day because of the rise in popularity.
Right, and let's drill down on one piece that you mentioned there. It's the ownership part. What is I think buyers may be underrating what the value of this. So why don't you help us understand that part?
Well, the ownership rules in Barbados are the part buyers underrate the most. And if you have looked anywhere else in this region, you will understand immediately why. There is no trust structure, no restricted zones, and no workarounds that you have to worry about, right? You buy the property in your own name with the same freehold rights as a Barbadian citizen does, just like here in the United States, including any beachfront, all outright. If you've ever been walking through a bank trust or a holding company just to own a beach house somewhere else, you already know how rare that is. On this island, you just simply own it. We've covered so many places like Mexico, Panama, all these amazing places where, yes, you buy the property, yes, you own it, but there's a way that you have to do it. There's applications, there's a way that you have to set up trust. Here, you just buy it and you just simply own it. It makes it so simple.
Awesome. Well, let's take a look at the coasts one at a time. Let's start at the top, the Platinum Coast, which is on the west side. That's Holetown, that's St. James, that's St. Peter. Stephanie, what's special about the Platinum Coast?
The Platinum Coast runs up the west side of Barbados through Holetown, St. James, and St. Peter, and it earns the name of calm water, powder, soft sand, championship golf, and a stretch of shoreline that has been the most exclusive address in the Caribbean for decades. This is not an emerging story. This is the established one, and it prices accordingly.
Right. So entry level there, we're looking at around 500K. So it's certainly a higher entry than we see in some other markets. And of course the beachfront premium villas are going to run 20 million and beyond. There's even some super prime you can see up in the 50s. Prime locations post about 10% growth year over year. Foreign buyers are 70, 75, maybe even higher than that of the high-end deals. Managed villas can yield 8%. Who are you seeing as the buyer for those types of properties, Steph?
Well, the Platinum Coast is for the buyer who wants the single best address in the Caribbean, full stop, right? There's no aspiration to it, no waiting for a thesis to play out. You're buying something that is already finished. And the thing every buyer on that coast eventually says out loud is the same thing. West Coast Barbados does not get cheaper with time. This is not a sales line. It's just what the last 30 years of that shoreline has done. It's constantly gone up.
Yeah, absolutely. Now let's look at the other side of the island, which is 15 minutes from the airport, and this is the south coast around Christchurch. This is beach towns. This is the gap for the restaurants and nightlife. It's got some of the world's best kite surfing going on there. Coverley and the condo products around Dover and Oistins. This has got another look to it, a little bit different from the Platinum Coast. Stephanie, what do you think about the south coast?
Well, this is the coast I would be on, right? The South Coast is where Barbados stops being a fantasy and starts actually becoming part of your plan. It's well built, 2 or 3 bedroom around Christchurch, runs roughly 270 to 330,000 US dollars, right? That is something you can put in your plan. It's on the same island as what we just covered. It's under the same laws with the same tax treatment as the villa up the coast that costs 50 times more. And it's not a compromise, right? There is a real long-term rental market from the expat and the professional base, plus vacation rental upside from the tourism side. For most people I talk to, this coast is the actual answer. And the Platinum Coast, that's where we daydream to, right? That's the future. After we make all this rental income, we'll go buy the 50 million estate, right?
Exactly. That's the plan. Well, one more piece before we leave the geography of Barbados. Bridgetown and its garrison are both a UNESCO World Heritage Site. You've got really beautiful Georgian architecture. You've got the Savannah racetrack. You've got a really beautiful walkable colonial capital. How does that area fit into the big picture?
Well, Bridgetown is not the primary investment story in Barbados, the way Holetown or Christchurch are. And I would not want anyone to hear it that way. But for a buyer who wants a townhouse with a real history, walking distance to the capital's restaurants and galleries, it's worth a serious look. What it really does is round out the picture. Barbados is a complete country with a real economy and real culture. So it's not just a beach strip with an airport attached, right? So if you're going there to have a city life, you can do that as well.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about actually living there. What does it take to get residency? What's the tax story? There's 2 programs that I think are worth knowing about. One is the Welcome Stamp, which is the remote work visa. That you need about $50K a year in income, proof of remote work. You need your own health insurance. $2,000 for an individual, $3,000 for a family. Why does the Welcome Stamp matter so much in this scenario?
Well, the Barbados Welcome Stamp is one of the most straightforward programs of its kind anywhere in the Caribbean. And here is the part people miss. It is a 12-month visa. It is renewable. And while you hold it, you pay no Barbados income tax on foreign earned income. So if you work remotely or you run something location independent, you can live on this island legally for a year, keep renewing it, and your income is not touched locally. Approval usually comes back in about a week, which is remarkable. That is a remarkably low bar, and it's for a remarkably good year. I mean, Charles, that's unheard of.
For the digital nomad scene, that looks like the perfect scenario. So no doubt, no surprise that's such a popular part of this overall plan. But then let's talk about the longer term arrangement. There's the special entry and the reside permit. Everyone just calls that the SERP. That you need property worth at least $2 million or a net worth above $5 million. The fee for that is going to run about $3,500 to $5,000. What's your take on the SERP side?
Well, the Barbados Welcome Stamp and the SERP are not applications to self-file. And I say about that about a few very things. Okay. They are different categories with different thresholds, and those thresholds move. A Barbados based immigration attorney will confirm the current numbers and make sure the application goes in the right category the first time. And that's what we do here at Airdomo, is help that process. An application filed into the wrong category is not a small correction. It is a complete restart and something that you don't want to do. So spending the money on the wrong attorney before you spend it on the filing, it's just come to us. That's what we're here to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And then there's the big headline that is kind of the why everyone talks about Barbados. It's the tax picture, and there's a succession angle that a lot of buyers never really hear about. What's that look like, Steph?
Well, the tax position in Barbados is the reason the island keeps its reputation. So let me say it very clearly. No capital gains tax, no wealth tax, and no inheritance or estate tax. Not reduced, none. And if you are a foreign investor who is not domiciled there, the forced heirship rules that require a fixed share go to a spouse or children, they do not apply to you either. So you have a real freedom in how you structure your will. So for anyone thinking past their own lifetime, and most serious buyers eventually are, that combination is getting harder to find anywhere in the world. And it's this very setup that years ago got me into global real estate, because people were looking for ways to better pass along their estates. And this is a real one right here.
Yeah, absolutely. And the one more kind of small point on the transaction itself, there's a annual land tax that runs from nothing to about 0.8% of improved value by tier. But there is something unique about the closing structure, and that sometimes makes people do a double take. What does that look like?
Well, so there is a line in the Barbados closing structure that stops North American buyers cold. It's the transfer tax and the stamp duty, but it's paid by the seller, you all, not the buyer. So when you come to Airdomo and buy, you don't have to worry about it. That stamp duty at 1% and a transfer tax at 2.5%, and none of it comes out of your side of the table. If you have bought property almost anywhere else, you have been conditioned to budget several percent of the purchase price just for the privilege of closing. But on this island, the line is somebody else's problem, and it genuinely changes your all-in number. I mean, look, this is a buyer-friendly island. If you can picture arms wide open and saying, come and be part of us, that's what Barbados is saying constantly.
Yeah, absolutely. And one more small procedural note that sometimes catches the first-time buyers. Money bought in to buy property has to be registered with the central bank. And that matters more than it sounds. Why is that, Steph?
Well, the smallest step in a Barbados purchase is the one most likely to cost you time. So I want to flag it. Funds you bring into the country to buy property have to be registered with the central bank. It is a straightforward compliance step, and it is not a barrier to anything, but it has to happen through the right channel. And if it does not, you find out exactly the moment you least want a delay. Have a local attorney managing that transaction from day one, which again is what we do here at Airdomo, and this never becomes the story. And people say, well, why do we have to do that? It's a great reason why. This is how they keep fraud and bad actors out of Barbados, and it's a great thing that they do.
Yeah, and that's why it's the boring, safe story that it is, right? So
exactly.
It's worth that
no money laundering here.
Yeah, exactly. So we've talked about a lot of different Caribbean countries, a lot of different markets. Let's kind of tie it all together against all of the other markets we've looked at. Where would you place Barbados, and who's it for?
Well, look, Barbados is the most institutionally mature Caribbean market we track. And I do not say that lightly. Turks and Caicos has a comparable tax structure, and I love Turks and Caicos, but it is smaller, far more resort driven, right? It's more commercialized. Barbados gives you that same tax advantage plus a full diversified domestic economy, a democracy with 60 years of track records, and a genuine depth at both ends of the market. So you are not making a bet on an island finding its footing. You are buying into one that found it a long time ago.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not a one buyer island. So before someone opens up a single listing, what are the kind of the key facts they need to know going in?
Well, before you look at a single listing in Barbados, understand that it is one island with two completely different markets, and picking the wrong one wastes months of time, right? The Platinum Coast is for the buyer who wants the single best address in the Caribbean, and you got to be prepared to pay for it, right? It's like wearing your Louis Vuitton shoes. Got to pay for them. The South Coast is for the buyer who wants real rental income, the genuine year-round community, and a price point that still makes sense. Same laws, same tax treatment, same beaches within a 20-minute drive of each other, but they're completely different decisions.
Right. And again, on Airdomo today, we've got the Platinum Coast villas, we've got the South Coast condos and townhouses in Christchurch. So make sure to come cast your eyes on them. Even some select opportunities near Bridgetown. And again, as Steph mentioned, the concierge service, the concierge connections can help you get through the welcome stamp and the CERT pathways, help you with build the critical piece, which is the right team to get you through it safely, quickly, hassle-free, and that's all available to you at Airdomo. Stephanie, what's the last word on Barbados before we say goodbye?
If Barbados has not been on your radar until today, it should be now. Stable ground, a clean tax structure, real freehold ownership in your own name, and a genuine room at two different very price points. And here's the part I keep coming back to. The smartest buyers move before the trade is obvious to everyone else. Barbados has been obvious to British buyers for a generation. It is becoming obvious to everyone else right now, especially right here in America. And that gap, the one between the people who already knew and the people just finding out, is the only window that ever really matters. So again, thank you for joining us on Airdomo Global. Head to airdomo.com to browse our Barbados listings. I can feel my husband looking at them right now. I can feel him going to come home today going, "Hey, let's go to Barbados," right? So connect with our concierge team and start your conversation. We'll see you on the next week with another market, another opportunity. And until then, find your place in this world.
Yep. Find it on Airdomo. We'll see you next time.
Bye, y'all.